Before we dive into this mind-blowing journey, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. The world knows the Strait of Hormuz as a geopolitical choke point, but beneath the headlines lies a landscape so surreal it feels like a fever dream. This is a region where history is etched into salt and survival is an ancient art. Today, we stepped into the unreal Hormuz. Hormuz Island is a staggering 500-million-year-old salt dome that punches through the Earth's crust, dragging a chaotic treasure trove of minerals to the surface. Walking here is like entering a giant open-air laboratory. You are stepping on raw pyrite, dolomite, and halite. Because these rocks rose from extreme depths, they haven't weathered into brown dirt, but remain in vibrant, raw states. The most shocking feature is the red beach, where the sand is so rich in hematite that the ocean appears to bleed crimson. This soil isn't just for show, it is a culinary staple. Locals mix this red earth into a sauce called surreal, making Hormuz the only place on Earth where people literally eat the mountains. With 70 different mineral shades across just 42 square kilometers, the island is a living landmass that constantly shifts due to salt tectonics. From the goddess of Salt Mountain to the Valley of Statues, every inch of this territory defies logic, proving that nature's engineering is far more bizarre than any fiction. The geologic theater of the salt domes. Hormuz Island is far more than a simple landmass. It is a staggering spherical salt dome that began its upward journey over 500 million years ago, effectively acting as a massive geological plug that punched through the Earth's crust with a force that dragged ancient minerals from the late Precambrian era to the surface. This unique process created a mineralogical reservoir unlike any other on the planet, where walking across the terrain is akin to stepping through a giant, open-air laboratory composed of raw pyrite, dolomite, quartz, and halite. Known to scientists as the Hormuz series, this time capsule of metamorphic and volcanic rocks has avoided being weathered into a uniform brown, instead retaining vibrant, raw states that range from metallic blacks to brilliant whites across a natural concentric form. Geologically, the island represents the Earth's internal plumbing laid bare, where a chaotic mix of evaporites and igneous layers reveals a compressed history of tectonic collisions. With over 70 different minerals found within its small 42 square kilometer area, Hormuz stands as one of the world's most significant geological heritage sites, offering an unreal appearance that serves as a paradise for researchers studying the rare interaction between deep-seated salt domes and the modern atmosphere. Imagine a place where the mountains are literally made of salt, rising over 600 feet above sea level, challenging the very laws of erosion. The island's most shocking feature is the red beach, where the sand contains such a high concentration of iron oxide that the water appears to bleed into a deep crimson red. This red soil isn't just for looking at, it is actually used as a spice in local cuisine known as surreal, making Hormuz the only place on Earth where people literally eat the mountains. The sheer pressure required to push this salt plug through kilometers of solid rock is equivalent to thousands of atomic bombs worth of energy distributed over ions. Furthermore, the island contains salt caves, where the air is so pure it is used for therapeutic purposes, and the walls are covered in crystalline formations that took millions of years to grow, yet can be destroyed by a single drop of rain. This fragile balance between ancient durability and instant solubility makes Hormuz a ticking clock of geological change. Beneath the surface, the salt continues to move, a process known as halokinesis, meaning the island is technically a living landmass that subtly shifts its shape while the rest of the world remains static. From the goddess of Salt Mountain to the Valley of Statues, where wind has carved rocks into haunting, animal-like shapes, every square inch of this 16-square-mile territory defies logic. It is a place where you can find gold of fools, scattered like common pebbles, and where the soil temperatures can soar, reflecting the intense mineral activity just beneath the crust. This is not just a destination, it is a 500-million-year-old masterpiece of planetary engineering that remains one of the most vibrant, dangerous, and scientifically precious spots in the Persian Gulf. The rainbow soil and the ochre mine. Hormuz Island is far more than a simple landmass. It is a staggering spherical salt dome that began its upward journey over 500 million years ago, effectively acting as a massive geological plug that punched through the Earth's crust with a force that dragged ancient minerals from the late Precambrian era to the surface. The most famous visual of Hormuz is its rainbow carpet, but the science behind these colors is even more fascinating than the view. The island's soil contains over 70 different shades, primarily driven by iron oxides and intense volcanic activity that occurred when the planet was still in its geological infancy. The deep, haunting blood red that stains the beaches and turns the ocean waves into a crimson tide is caused by hematite, an iron-rich mineral so abundant here that it has been mined for centuries for industrial use. This red ochre, known locally as gelak, is not just a pigment for painters, it is a shocking culinary ingredient. In a move that defies modern logic, the local people mix this mineral-rich soil into a spicy sauce called surak, which is then spread onto traditional flatbread. This makes Hormuz one of the only places on the entire planet where humans literally consume the geological history of their home as part of their daily diet. Beyond the reds, you encounter sulfur-yellow mountains that emit a faint, primal scent of the Earth's core, and iron-black sands that contain high concentrations of magnetite, shimmering like millions of crushed diamonds under the intense Persian Gulf sun. The goddess of salt mountains stands as a towering monument to this chemical diversity, a massive outcropping of pure white halite that looks like a frozen glacier stranded in the middle of a searing desert. The diversity of the soil is so extreme that if you move just a few hundred meters, the entire landscape shifts violently from a Martian red to a sulfuric yellow or a bruised metallic purple. This mineral wealth was the original oil of the region, attracting ancient traders for millennia who sought the ochre for high-value dyes and primitive medicines. Today, scientists have calculated that the island's structure is almost concentric, with layers of ancient rock forming a natural fortress that acts as a geological time capsule. Walking across Hormuz is like navigating a giant, open-air laboratory where you are stepping on pyrite, dolomite, quartz, anhydrite, and halite. Because these rocks were pushed up from depths exceeding several kilometers, they haven't been weathered down into a uniform brown. Instead, they remain in their raw, vibrant states, preserved by the arid climate. The island's colors are a direct result of its salt tectonics, a rare phenomenon where the movement of salt under immense pressure creates a constantly shifting and renewing surface. This means Hormuz is technically a living landmass. The ground beneath your feet is slowly but surely moving, pushed by the massive salt plug that continues to interact with the atmosphere. With a total area of only 42 square kilometers, the concentration of minerals here is higher than almost anywhere else on the Earth's crust. This unique geodiversity allows the island to sustain its unreal appearance, turning a tiny speck in the Persian Gulf into a world-class heritage site that proves the Earth can produce colors and textures far more vivid and bizarre than anything ever created in a laboratory. The architecture of the wind, the badges of Laft. In the coastal village of Laft on Keshem Island, the horizon is pierced by a forest of rectangular stone towers known as badgirs, or wind catchers, which represent a 1,000-year-old masterpiece of passive cooling engineering that puts modern technology to shame. In a brutal environment where summer temperatures regularly skyrocket past 122 degrees Fahrenheit and the humidity from the Persian Gulf becomes a suffocating wall, these structures are the difference between life and death. The badgir operates on a brilliant principle of physics, pressure differentials, and the Venturi effect. Rising high above the rooftops to capture even the most microscopic breeze, the tower's interior is divided into precision-engineered vertical shafts. As wind hits the top, it is forced down into the living quarters. Because the air is compressed through these narrow channels, its velocity increases significantly, creating a natural refrigeration effect. Simultaneously, the tower acts as a massive thermal chimney. The stagnant hot air inside the house, being lighter, rises and is sucked out through the leeward side of the tower. This creates a constant, high-speed circulation of air that can shockingly drop interior temperatures by as much as 20 degrees Celsius without consuming a single watt of electricity. In a feat of ancient thermodynamics, some of these architectural lungs are strategically positioned over cannons. As the hot desert air passes over the cool subterranean water, it undergoes evaporative cooling, entering the home not just as a breeze, but as chilled, humidified air, functioning exactly like a modern swamp cooler, but built entirely of mud, stone, and wood. What is truly mind-blowing is that these structures have survived for centuries in one of the most corrosive, salty environments on Earth, proving that ancient Persian engineers possessed a sophisticated grasp of aerodynamics and fluid dynamics long before the invention of modern VRC systems. Today, the village of Laft remains one of the few places where this living archaeology still functions perfectly. Each tower is a bespoke piece of engineering, oriented specifically to the prevailing winds of the Gulf. If these towers were to be replaced by modern air conditioning, the carbon footprint would be astronomical. Instead, the Badgear provides 100% green, zero-carbon cooling. These towers aren't just chimneys, they are symbols of human resilience, allowing entire communities to thrive in a climate that is technically uninhabitable for the unprotected human body. Estimates suggest that a single traditional Badgear can move over 30,000 cubic feet of air per hour, providing a level of ventilation that modern apartment buildings struggle to match. This ancient smart tech reminds us that the most powerful solutions to climate change might actually be buried in our past, waiting to be rediscovered. The silent giants, traditional Lenge shipyards. The Persian Gulf's history was not written in books, but carved into the hulls of the Lenge, traditional wooden vessels that have dominated the Indian Ocean for over a millennium. On the northern shores of Hormuz Island, in shipyards that look like something out of a 16th century painting, these massive boats are still being constructed using techniques that defy modern industrial logic. What makes the Lenge truly unreal, and perhaps one of the most shocking feats of human engineering, is that there are no blueprints. There are no CAD designs, no digital simulations, and not a single scrap of paper used to plan these giants. The master builders, known as Galafas, hold the entire architectural complexity of a 300-ton vessel entirely in their spatial memory. This isn't just craftsmanship, it's a living biological database passed down through generations. A Galafa knows the exact curve of the hull and the precise angle of the keel simply by the feel of the wood, typically high-density teak or oak imported from India. This maritime tradition is so culturally significant that in 2011, it was inscribed on UNESCO's list of intangible cultural heritage. Constructing a single Lenge is an epic endurance test that can take up to 2 years of continuous hand labor. Every single joint is hand-fitted, and every seam is painstakingly sealed with traditional cotton soaked in coconut or fish oil to make it watertight. These ships were engineered specifically to survive the Persian Gulf's treacherous shallow waters and unpredictable seasonal storms that could easily snap a less resilient vessel in half. For centuries, these wooden whales acted as the internet of their time, connecting the tiny island of Hormuz to the distant ports of Zanzibar, Mumbai, and the East African coast, transporting vast fortunes in spices, textiles, and precious minerals. Walking through an active shipyard is a sensory overload. The air is thick with the scent of sawdust and ancient oils, and the rhythmic drumming of hand hammers echoes against massive wooden ribs that look like the skeletons of prehistoric creatures. Even in 2026, As steel hulls and GPS navigation become the global norm, the wooden lenge remains a symbol of the Gulf's seafaring DNA. There is a staggering mathematical precision in their work. A lenge must be perfectly balanced to handle the monsoon winds of the Indian Ocean, yet it is built using only the human eye and basic hand tools. It is estimated that a well-built lenge can stay seaworthy for over 100 years, outlasting many modern steel ships that are prone to corrosion. To stand beneath the hull of a lenge is to realize that human intuition can sometimes outperform a supercomputer. These ships are not just transport, they are a 500-million-year-old connection between the land's minerals and the sea's vast trade routes, proving that the most durable technology is often the one that lives within the human mind. The Fortress of Empires, the Portuguese castle. Perched on the northern tip of Hormuz Island is the Fort of Our Lady of the Conception, more commonly known as the Portuguese castle, a crumbling red stone leviathan that has guarded the world's most strategic maritime choke point for over 500 years. Built in 1507 by the legendary Portuguese commander Afonso de Albuquerque, this fortress was the centerpiece of a global power play that saw European empires fighting for absolute control over the lucrative spice routes. What makes this castle a geological and architectural marvel is that its walls are constructed from the island's own iron-rich red soil and volcanic rock, making the massive structure appear as if it literally grew out of the Earth's crust. This isn't just a building, it is a military machine designed to hold the world's trade hostage. During their 115-year occupation, the Portuguese used this outpost to tax every single vessel entering the Persian Gulf, amassing a fortune that helped fuel the European age of discovery. The engineering inside the fort is shockingly advanced for the 16th century. It features a massive underground water cistern, which was a life-saving necessity in the scorching 45°C heat, and a network of vaulted tunnels used to store tons of gunpowder and supplies during grueling sieges. These tunnels were carved deep into the salt dome bedrock, providing a natural cooling effect that kept munitions stable in extreme temperatures. The castle's walls are over 3 meters thick in some sections, designed to withstand the impact of heavy bronze cannons. History changed forever in 1622 when the Safavid king, Shah Abbas, joined forces with the British East India Company in a bloody naval battle to expel the Portuguese, reclaiming the island for Persia. This event marked a massive shift in global geopolitics, ending Portuguese dominance in the Indian Ocean. Today, the fort stands in a state of heroic decay, with its rusted cannons still pointed toward the horizon, where modern supertankers, carrying 20% of the world's total petroleum consumption, now pass through the narrow Strait of Hormuz. The site is a haunting reminder that this tiny strip of water has always been a choke point for global wealth, whether it was gold and silk in the 1500s or oil and liquefied natural gas today. Walking through the ruins, you can still find traces of the vaulted chapel's intricate stonework, contrasting sharply with the brutal, functional design of the armory. It is estimated that the Portuguese spent the equivalent of millions of modern dollars to maintain this single outpost, proving that the value of Hormuz has never been about its size, but its position as the key to the global lock. This fortress is a bridge between a colonial past and a volatile geopolitical present, standing as a silent witness to 5 centuries of human greed, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of power in the most colorful corner of the planet. The nursery of the sea, Hara mangrove forests. Between Kesham Island and the mainland lies the Hara Forest, a 20-square-kilometer labyrinth of mangrove trees that perform a biological miracle every day. The Avicennia marina, or Hara tree, has evolved a unique physiological solution to one of nature's biggest contradictions: how to grow in water that would kill almost any other plant. These trees live in the salt water of the Persian Gulf by desalinating it through their root systems. They filter the salt and expel it through their leaves, which you can often see covered in tiny, glinting salt crystals. The forest is a tidal nursery, meaning it is completely flooded during high tide and exposed as a muddy labyrinth during low tide. This environment is the beating heart of the Gulf's marine life. It provides a safe haven for over 700 species of fish, as well as green sea turtles and dolphins. It is also a critical stopover for migratory birds traveling between Africa and Asia, including flamingos and pelicans. For the local people, the forest is a production system. They use the nutritious leaves as animal feed and navigate the narrow channels in small boats to harvest shrimp. The Hara Forest is a biosphere reserve that proves that even in the harshest, saltiest environments, life doesn't just survive, it flourishes. It is the infrastructure of life, protecting the coastline from erosion and providing the nutrients that sustain the entire Gulf ecosystem. The secret language of the Boruca masks. One of the most striking cultural images of the Hormuzgan province is the Boruca, the traditional face mask worn by women in the coastal villages. While an outsider might see a symbol of constraint, the Boruca is actually a sophisticated technology of identity and survival. Originally, the masks were purely practical, designed to protect the skin from the extreme UV radiation reflected off the white salt and the turquoise sea. Over 5 centuries, this practical tool evolved into a complex social text. The masks are made of embroidered fabric or leather, and their colors and shapes communicate specific details about the wearer. A gold or red mask often indicates a woman's marital status, while the shape, some looking like mustaches to ward off invaders, can tell you which village or tribe she belongs to. In places like Keshem and Hormuz, you might see mustache masks or full-face niqab-style masks, each with unique gold thread patterns. This custom is a nautically spread tradition, showing influences from cultural exchanges across the Indian Ocean, East Africa, and the Arabian Peninsula. Today, the Boruca is becoming a rare sight as younger generations move toward modern dress, but it remains a powerful symbol of the unreal identity of the region, a culture shaped by the sea, the sun, and the constant flow of foreign travelers through the strait. The Valley of the Stars, a fallen galaxy. On Keshem Island, there is a place where the Earth looks as if it has been shattered. This is the Valley of the Stars. According to local legend, a massive star fell from the sky and collided with the island, shattering the rock into the jagged towering pillars and narrow canyons we see today. Geologically, the explanation is equally dramatic. The valley was formed by 2 million years of erosion. The soft layers of sandstone were washed away by seasonal rains and wind, leaving behind the harder caps of rock that now sit atop tall, spindly columns. The result is a labyrinth of eerie shapes that change as the sun moves across the sky. At night, the wind whistling through the narrow gaps creates a haunting sound that locals say is the voice of ghosts or jinns. This has led to a tradition where people avoid entering the valley after dark. From a scientific perspective, the valley is a world-class example of badland topography in a coastal environment. It is a place where you can see the visible compression of time. Layers of ancient seashells and fossils are embedded in the canyon walls, proving that this entire alien landscape was once the bottom of the sea. It is one of the most photographed spots in the Keshem UNESCO Global Geopark because it captures the essence of the unreal, a landscape that looks like a still frame from a science fiction movie. Karg Island, the terminal of the sun. Located roughly 34 miles northwest of Bushehr, Karg Island is the most strategic industrial fortress in the Persian Gulf. Often called the Orphan Pearl, Karg is a coral island that serves as the terminal for nearly 90% of Iran's oil exports. But Karg is much more than just a cluster of pipes and tanks. It is an island with a history that stretches back to the Achaemenid Empire, 550–330 BT. It is one of the few islands in the Gulf with a natural source of fresh water, which made it a mercantile post for centuries. In 2007, an Achaemenid-era cuneiform inscription was discovered here, carved into coral rock. It spoke of a king bringing happiness and water to a wilderness land. The island also holds the ruins of a 7th century Christian monastery, complete with a chapel and 19 monk cells, making it one of the largest documents of early Christian archaeology in the region. Today, the island is a high-tech citadel, capable of loading 10 supertankers simultaneously, with a storage capacity of 30 million barrels. During the Iran-Iraq War, it was targeted hundreds of times but never stopped functioning, a testament to its structural and strategic resilience. Karg represents the dual reality of the Gulf. It is a place where ancient monasteries sit in the shadow of the infrastructure that powers the modern world. It is the industrial anchor of the Strait of Hormuz, the point where the world's thirst for energy meets the deep, silent history of the Persian past. The biodiversity of the hottest sea. The Persian Gulf is often described as a hostile environment because of its extreme salinity and temperatures that regularly reach 96 degrees Fahrenheit underwater. Yet, the waters around Hormuz and Keshem are home to a biological diversity that defies logic. This is the Strait of Endurance. The coral reefs here are among the most resilient in the world, having adapted to thermal cycling that would cause mass bleaching and death in the Great Barrier Reef. These corals are currently being studied by marine biologists as a secret weapon against climate change. If we can understand how they survive here, we might be able to save reefs elsewhere. The strait is also a critical migration route for the Arabian humpback whale, the only whale population in the world that does not migrate between poles, staying in these warm waters year-round. You can find massive schools of king mackerel, tuna, and barracuda, as well as the endangered dugong wow, grazing on seagrass beds. Dolphins are a common sight, often jumping in the wakes of the massive tankers that pass through the shipping lanes. This ecosystem is a high-wire act of survival, where every species has evolved a specific mechanism to handle the heat. It reminds us that the Strait of Hormuz is not just a geopolitical corridor, it is a vibrant, living lung that connects the Indian Ocean to the inner Gulf, proving that life finds a way to thrive even in the choke points of the world. The Strait of Hormuz is more than a statistic on a trade report. It is a place where the land bleeds, the wind speaks through stone, and the history of empires is written in salt. From the rainbow soil of Hormuz to the wind towers of Laft and the industrial strength of Karg, this region is a masterclass in resilience. It shows us that beauty and danger are often two sides of the same coin. As the world looks at this narrow strip of water with anxiety, the people who live here look at it with a sense of identity that has outlasted every empire to cross its shores. Thank you for journeying through the unreal Hormuz. If you want to see the world through a different lens, make sure to follow for more. The story of our planet is far more colorful than the headlines suggest.